Welcome, teacher friend. I'm Lori.
And I'm Melissa.
We are two literacy educators in Baltimore. We want the best for all kids, and we know you do too.
Our district recently adopted a new literacy curriculum, which meant a lot of change for everyone. Lori and I can't wait to keep learning about literacy with you today. Hi there, literacy friends. Today we have two exciting guests. So we have Karen Vaites, who's been visiting Baltimore today, along with Janice Lane, who we've had on the podcast before. So I'll let them introduce themselves quickly.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I am a curriculum evangelist from New York that has been following the work here in Baltimore City Schools with so much enthusiasm from, honestly, since before the days that you selected a curriculum. I was watching your selection process and knowing that with the team you had, you're probably going to pick something fabulous and do something awesome. So it's so fun to finally be here seeing the work for myself today.
And we love following Karen on Twitter. She's amazing and one of our super fans.
Hi, everybody. It's Janice Lane. I am the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning here in City Schools and was very fortunate to spend the day with Karen in classrooms, visiting the work of our teachers and our students and our school leaders.
So like they both said, they have spent the day here in Baltimore, which is super exciting. So we want to hear a little bit about, as Karen has been following our story here in Baltimore, how she saw that playing out. And so she has lots of questions for Janice along the way. So we'll let her get started with what she saw.
I saw so many absolutely wonderful, so many wonderful lessons. I saw a few phenomenal teachers. I saw the brilliance of the kids of Baltimore. But I think I'm going to do what I do best, what my superpower is, which is save a lot of those stories for the Twitterverse, because I came with my phone. And I know you have this hashtag, BeMoreEdChat, and yes. I don't actually, when I hear someone like Kair tell his story about why he went from being hesitant about this new curriculum thing to being a curriculum superfan, and he says that on video, I'm not going to steal his words, I'm just going to tweet them later. So I can't wait to be on a train back to New York and do my storytelling. But the story that we didn't get to talk about today when we were in classrooms, because Janice and I were too busy chatting with kids and admiring teachers, is a story that I'm going to call Baltimore's Little Modesty Problem. I've had a lot of fun noticing that you guys had these phenomenal outcomes in year one with Wit and Wisdom. And when I say phenomenal outcomes, for context, I think most everybody listening to this podcast probably knows that curriculum implementation is really hard. It's harder the more you choose a truly rich and robust curriculum that puts everybody on a learning curve, and you all did by choosing a high-quality curriculum. They all represent, Scott Hartle at EL Education likes to say, they represent, excellent teaching but not easy teaching. And so we know that you guys have been doing really hard work the last year, and we usually set our expectations by saying year one of curriculum implementation is it's our learning year. We're probably not going to see outcomes. That's the word on the street about curriculum implementation. That's exactly what we said. I had a feeling you said that to yourselves a year ago. And I was sitting there saying to myself, but this is a team of ninjas, and I bet I had this hunch based on the things I was seeing in your district and others that we were going to see some good stories this time of year. Turns out that's happening. But you guys have barely been talking about it. I tweeted a little bit about it. I know there's been a tiny bit of announcement to the media. But the story I want to hear from Janice and anyone else that will tell it is about this remarkable year one gain that you guys have seen. So
I love it. We have been a little quiet, I assume, on that front. I think one of the reasons we've been quiet is because we know how much more work we have to do. But I want to say to you that I could not be more proud of the work that has happened here in the district for year one. I think the decision making around the curriculum, one of the things that was a great bonus in that work was the early engagement. So I feel like that set a nice common understanding for what we were doing and what we were getting ready to do. And I know all of the conversations we had across year one, people kept bracing us to say, typically year one, you get a drop. And deep down low in that inside stomach voice that you have, I kept thinking, I think we might not have that drop. I was praying for that not drop, just to, really keep the momentum of the work going. And you're right, Karen, we did see gains across all grade levels in ELA. And in some grades, we saw sizable gains. our scores, our students, our early scores were struggling. So we have definitely room to grow. But the idea here is that the momentum is moving, and what we want to do is keep the momentum going. We want to make sure that teachers know the work they're putting in is proving outcomes. We want students to feel that success. I think what we saw today documents that success and growth. We saw excellent teachers, but saw amazing kids really taking ownership. We had a conversation. We were fortunate to sit through a 6th grade Socratic seminar. That started off with the teacher saying, I'm the man here with just the checklist. You guys are doing the work. And the students took on that work and started, respectfully pushing each other, inviting other people into the conversation, really thinking about what that looks like throughout the work. And so that was amazing. But what was the most amazing part was after the Socratic seminar was over, it was lunchtime. Karen and I were packing up in the back, and 2 little 6th grade guys decided to stay and tell us everything that's great about their work, about their growth in what they need to work on, and just asked if they could miss lunch. Could they run downstairs, grab lunch, and come back up and finish talking to us? And really what it was about, one little gentleman said to us that he's a slow writer, he's a slow reader, it takes him time to process, and that he really gets it, though, and he understands what he's trying to communicate. So it takes him some time. And his friend played off of that and said, I'm not such a great reader. I'm actually surprised sometimes that other people get things done so quickly. And he said, but what I've been doing is I go home and I've been practicing fluency with my sister, and I've been reading and I've been practicing looking up evidence so that when I have to get something ready, and it was like, you could skip lunch, you could come to dinner, you can come over for the weekend. Just this idea of student awareness of what they're doing and what they see as valuable within the learning, I think is really just internalized within the curriculum, that students have that opportunity. I think the district as a whole, from our CEO's stance and leadership, has really set that this is a learning place. Baltimore has embraced the curriculum, but also understood clearly, Karen, what you said. It's hard work. Year 1 was really around internalizing and purposeful planning, but teachers know that's not enough, right? They take that and they make that the craft of what happens to change student outcomes, to see what their lessons look like. And again, today we saw that example. We saw teachers who really not only were prepared with the curriculum, but also prepared with student need, so that when they were able to pull a small group and provide additional support who needed it, they were able to elevate student examples. They were allowed to build the opportunities that I think one of the most beautiful designs in Wit and Wisdom are the instructional routines. So they took those instructional routines that students were super comfortable with and allowed them the opportunity to share across one another. So I think a really coherent plan of engagement. I think a well-designed professional learning system and structure within that is critical for every single stakeholder in the group. I would love to say, and I often say, I wish we could take a year off of school and just do a year of learning, send the kids off to a wonderful excursion of learning and really let our teachers, our school leaders, our principal supervisors, everyone get that depth of learning. But I think what has happened is the excitement around the curriculum, and I'll be honest with you, I think the kids have done the work for us to see what our students are producing, especially knowing before there was doubt or mindset work that had to happen. And, not again, as Karen said, to steal Kier's thunder, but this idea of our Black and brown children and Latinx children can not only meet the outcomes that we're setting in front of them, they can actually exceed those outcomes. And to be able to elevate the work and say, guess what? The students over at X school are doing this, and they're our kids. And then to have teachers motivate one another within this. And then finally, I would say, we're having teachers take on the work. Teachers are the ones with the Be More Ed Chat coming together to really think about, what does this look like and sound like? How do we improve the work that we're doing? How do we ground our work in research? and being able to take those opportunities and really spread them and elevate them and use them as examples. So I guess we're kind of quietly celebrating. And I, again, would just say that, while those celebrations are there, we just like to parallel them with the continued learning that has to happen so that we move that in deeper, more coherent ways for every student to achieve those outcomes.
Yeah, and I think that's actually one of the most encouraging things that I see in this whole curriculum renaissance, if you will, is many of you, or maybe you don't know, I'll to give you 30 seconds of my story. Before I spent the last year and change doing purely advocacy work around math and literacy, but with some focus on trying to help people understand that there's this whole new category of significantly better curricula that are actually all green on ed reports. And 3 years ago, if you skimmed ed reports, you saw a lot of red and yellow and not a lot of green. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, all inside the space of about 2.5 years, that dramatically changed. So now there's authentic, excellent choice in both math and ELA at all grade bands, which is what we call the curriculum renaissance. But I felt like I had this front row seat to the curriculum renaissance because I was one of the founding members at Open Up Resources. So I was there before any of our curricula were done, when they were just in pilots, and I got to see those very first stories, like the stories you're seeing, when they were hot off the presses or hot into the Twitterverse, with educators talking about this remarkable student work and this, these differentiated outcomes and the first stories of positive outcomes in larger scale ways. So I was telling Janice over lunch, I actually became a curriculum super fan the old-fashioned way, which is like teachers made me one by seeing the tweets and the student work that they'd be sharing and all those things. But now, because I've been watching this space for a while, and I also had my fingers crossed, even though I wasn't here, that you guys would have these great stories. The most exciting thing for me about this, while I'm passionately excited that you're doing this great work, if you were the only beacon of greatness across the U.S., this would be a less interesting story. And it would be Baltimore's killing it, but how easy would this be for someone across the country to be learning from you and for us to be helping kids everywhere?
That's right.
Start to see these gains, mm-hmm. and that's kind of the end goal. So the part of this that I've been excited about is that you guys are a beacon of light in this work, but you aren't a unicorn. And I've been starting to see that sharing come out of a series of other districts. You aren't the only ones maybe hiding your light a little bit under a bushel, because I think these are undertold stories. We have seen Detroit public schools also in their first year of implementation of both the EL education curriculum and also Eureka Math. They had an announcement that I'm just quickly pulling up and skimming the announcement, that they had math and ELA outcomes that were up across the board. They exceeded state gains in their state, and they too, it was year one. It was also lots of work there, but really encouraging me to think that, the proof is in the pudding. Over in Detroit, we saw Guilford County schools down in North Carolina announce that they too had, in every subject, in every grade that was an assessed grade, they saw math, ELA, and science outcome gains, all in areas where they had adopted new curriculum.
That's great.
Wonderful. We saw Sullivan County Public Schools in Tennessee. After their adoption of the core knowledge curriculum, they, in, I believe, year one in some grades and year two in some places due to piloting, they also announced really significant gains in their English language arts outcomes. And we saw Jackson Madison in Tennessee announce in their second year of implementation, they announced their second consecutive year of positive ELA stories, but they also announced some really interesting math gains. They are using core knowledge in grades K2. They're using EL education in grades 3-5. They are using Eureka Math. So the best part of this story to me is that there's a consistent set of outcomes in districts that bring in these curricula and really proactively support teachers in use of the materials. These stories cross states, they cross district types, they cross demographics, they cross curricula. We are not looking at a one curriculum story. I think we might be talking about 4 different curricula across these stories. Pawtucket schools using American Reading, the Art Core curriculum. They haven't announced anything yet, but I've heard some nice rumblings out of Pawtucket. So across 4 high-quality ELA curricula, we're seeing these wonderful stories. So to me, that keeps me getting out of bed and keeps me ruthlessly over-tweeting about curriculum as the country's curriculum dork. But I guess to me, I'm watching these stories from afar, and Janice gets to watch them every day. I'd be really interested in what you see as the why here. I mean, why do you see curriculum and what comes with these high-quality curriculum helping to so quickly have an impact when we thought that wouldn't be our story? We thought we'd have to wait for these gains.
Yeah, can I add to that real quick before you answer, Janice? Because I know Janice will have a long answer. She always does. To your point, thinking of teachers who, or not even just teachers, we've heard it from various people who say that curriculum might take away the creativity of teachers, right? And that why would we do that? That's what makes a good teacher, and they're professionals and they should have the right to do that. So those two things I think sometimes are in tension. So what is it, I was going to ask you this too, so maybe both of you, what is it about the curriculum that is really that makes us see these gains? Like what is it, what's happening?
I'll make it a short answer, Melissa. No, just so I think that, there's so many different ways that people have described this, but I think it was my friend Robin who said that the curriculum is really the foundation and that you build the house upon the foundation. So the more I've been thinking about that, every house is designed differently. So you might put your kitchen in the front, I might put my kitchen in the back, but we both have a kitchen and it's an essential part of the house, right? So I think that when we're thinking about this curriculum, for so long in Baltimore, we had what teachers described and what I would agree with was a piecemealed curriculum. We did some really smart work around curriculum, but we weren't curriculum specialists. We weren't, designers of curriculum. So there were definite holes in coherency and especially around the content knowledge building. And what we noticed was when we brought the curriculum in, I think there was excitement around it. I cannot emphasize enough. I think it was one of the best projects I've been involved in since I've been here 10 years in city schools was around the adoption of the curriculum. We had the push from our CEO, from our school board to really make sure that engagement was deep. I remember, about to go to the board 3 or 4 different times to say, this is finally it. We are coming with a decision. And the board would say, great work, but go back out and let's hear from 25 more people, right? So, and at the time, I was thinking this can't be another ask, but it was really the right ask. We did a lot of creative things in Baltimore, Facebook chats, asked vendors to make digital platforms for people to see, but it really created this readiness that I think really allowed the field to ready themselves. We were at the same time doing some around why research matters within the curriculum, why content knowledge matters, why foundational skills are not a debate to have. They are an absolute necessity in the work. And so really created a readiness. And then when teachers got the curriculum, there was excitement around that work. So just the idea of having something that was coherent in design was something that was exciting in the beginning. And the second thing was professional development by the experts, bringing in folks who had taught it, who understood the design, who knew what it meant, who knew what kind of outcomes were coming, was really creating an excitement around the work. And then finally, I think when teachers trusted the process, when they trusted themselves and put the time and effort into the plan, again, I think our kids were the best-selling offer. They were the ones who came in and really to hear, no matter where you go, you can dwell away for those lunchtime conversations where a student's grabbing you and telling you about the module they just finished and let me tell you about the ocean. And they, you think I tell a long story, right? They have so much knowledge that they could spend hours with you. Today we heard it from the heart module. Then we had a deep conversation about Bud Not Buddy and identity within that. So I think just the opportunity of students really latching on and having having the knowledge, the vocabulary, the excitement, the passion to do the work has really propelled where we're going. I think that in year 2 now, that teachers are no longer surprised or shocked by the format of the curriculum. They're getting more comfortable. They worked their bottoms off last year, planning, digging in, spending time together, spending time in PLNs, working together, really thinking about what is the best way this can happen and really internalize the curriculum. But I think what's happening now is they're making it their own. And by making it your own does not mean, again, that you decide your house doesn't have a kitchen, right? It may be that the kitchen is blue and your kitchen is green, but the key components are there. And I think that the idea of what teachers are doing now is they are more comfortable. They are more willing to open their practice and share with one another. They are more open to really seeing what each other have. And again, that stance as a learner. So in the classroom, we talked to the teacher today, he's been sharing on Twitter his results, and he teaches 6th grade. And he said the 5th grade teacher who had those students last year came over and said, those are the same kids, but they didn't write like that last year. What are you doing? And so just the opportunity to pop into a classroom together and share the practice to really understand that. And I think those common conversations of principals allowing teachers the time and space to learn the curriculum, the principals to learn the curriculum with them, is really just granted us an opportunity. But I think the second thing of that is it's been a focused effort, right? This wasn't like, here comes new curriculum. We often joke, and I think in a naive way, we're like, boy, that was so much work to get the curriculum in. That would be the easy part. That was like not even deciding you want to buy a new house, right? Like the steps that come after that are really what matters the most of what, once the curriculum's there, how do you attend to mind work for teachers? How do you help teachers and the community really understand that things that have been broken before can be fixed and repaired, and that we need to trust one another. We need to give each other the grace in that learning, but that at the same time, we've got to push hard and we've got to hold rigorous expectations and standards for all students. And when we do, we see every one of our students achieving to that. And so I think that is the work that has really helped us. I think having effective leadership from the top that is supported all the way to the teacher level. But I think the second, or I've said second 3 times, so this might be the 3rd or 4th, right? I lose count. But this idea of continuous improvement has been a stance in the district this year as well. So really thinking about, are we just implementing, or are we learning from our implementation? And where we're seeing success, how do we elevate that success across the district? And where we're seeing struggles, how do we as a district support that work, whether it's through professional development, coaching, pairing teachers up, et cetera. And then, Karen has just been amazing to us in this work, in the sense of, we went walking today and they were all like, Karen's coming. I was like, well, I'll just wait in the office until it's over, right? But this idea of what Karen has created on social media to not only, as she calls herself, a curriculum nerd, right? But she's made research cool, and she's made research in a bite size where a teacher who has been working, tirelessly in making sense of the curriculum can now read an article and say, that makes sense. And it didn't take me 7 hours. I didn't have to annotate 32 pages. It's bite size. It makes sense, but it's relevant. And I think that's the other piece of making this work relevant, so that, teachers, we talk about kids, and kids being, full of inquiry, full of questions, and you give them a little and they want more. Teachers are the same. If you give them the right diet, you give them the right research, and you give them a little bite, they want another bite. And if we can continue to feed that and continue to feed this learning community that we've created, I think we're going to continue to see gains in our work.
And I love that. And your answer is so tangible and right.